Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Kodash, double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of Great Stone Rule Well, and to the Akim around the four corners of the earth, preaching the gospel from Mashiach Yahweh Shai, in sincerity and truth and diligence of mind. Yeah, so you see on the screen, it's clear as day, because the Lord is a righteous power. Whatever is in the dark shall come to light. And it's one thing you have to be aware of at all times, man, that nothing, nothing escapes the sight of the Lord. All right. That's one thing you have to be, grateful for, man. That the Lord is a righteous power. So you have to be, you have to praise the Lord, man. You can't forget, His sure mercies, the tender mercies of David. It's really, really important in these last days because you really need to have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the prophecies that the Lord is setting up before you. All right. So you see on the screen, man, it tells you that this whole idea to have a digital currency is nothing. It's nothing new. Like they like to put in the media. It's basically a scheme of the elite to push the people from using cash and go into a digital system where they can monitor every financial transaction, they can control it, and they could prevent people from accessing it. All right. And that's what it is. It's just another tool for them to control the whole world, especially the children of Israel, our people. That's the so-called Negroes, the so-called Latinos, and the so-called Native Americans. All right. So you always remember, man, they want to capture that that interaction between the people. They want to be able to take control of people's freedoms. That's it. So I'm going to read a quick precept from the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 36. All right. It tells you that just balances, you know what? Let me start verse 35. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meteyard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, a just hin shall ye have. I am the Lord your power, right? The Lord Yahbashim Ashabashim Kwakadash, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe all my statutes and all my judgments and do them. I am the Lord. It's that clear. So what do you what do you think the Lord is going to do when we disobey His laws, statutes, and commandments? He's going to have to jack us up, and that's the same old thing that's going to happen to these elites. They're going to lose all their wealth. They're going to lose all their control and power that they so treasure. All right. So you just have to be patient. You have to suffer. To get through to get to the kingdom, man, because the oppression that's coming is not a joke. So they're gonna have to pull out all their tricks to keep the people in line, and that's the reason why they're introducing this so-called digital currency, agenda. All right.
With all this talk about central bank digital currency, digital dollar, as well as the whole Bitcoin craze, we're currently in an environment now where there's a lot of excitement and learn. And I think we're here not by coincidence, but by design. And in this video here, I'm going to try to lay out my viewpoints on how I think that came about. And if I'm anywhere near correct, it looks like everything we're experiencing now is this current monetary world order going in a full circle from the physical to the digital. Let's talk about this. All right, so today I'm doing something a little bit different, trying to put together a Blackboard presentation where I put a lot of images as well as numbers and things of that nature together just to present my argument and how I believe everything we're experiencing now is not coincidence. And according to the powers that be, we're right on track, heading in the direction towards that one world currency, which I believe is the end result of what we're experiencing now. And so make sure you guys stick around to the very end because I want to try to put everything together as best I can in a short fashion and give you guys something to think about. And I'm curious to get your feedback on it. But before I dive any further, as always, if you guys enjoy these RTD quick takes, make sure you give it so more people can understand what's going on outside of what we're being told by the mainstream news sources. Then also make sure you click the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And then also, because of the notification bell, you may or may not get notified. So I want to encourage you to scroll beneath this video here and sign up for the RTD email list. And I'll definitely send you an email before we bring it out to your attention now, because it gives a historical account of how we arrived at this current point with the current money issue we're facing here in this country. And a lot of it has to do with the origins of our current monetary system. And so as you guys can see on the screen here, it says the changing forms of America's money. And the best thing about this is once you understand the history of this country and our money, where we're at now, why we're in these issues, and where they're trying to take us.
Yep. So you see the block chart behind him. You see the ratio of precious metals to their so-called papers. Because remember back back in the day, man. The early 20th century. That's the early 1900 or the early 1900s. You always remember they had the gold certificates and the silver certificates. And you also remember they had government greenbacks, money issued by the government that's not issued by the Federal Reserve. And when the Federal Reserve came into being, all of a sudden, they took over the control of Babylon's money supply. And that's the reason why there's so much inflation and there's so much war and instability across the world, because the elites decided to use the dollar as the world reserve currency. And now they want to move away from all that and have a digital currency which they're going to be able to control. And that's one thing they're pushing hard for. And they're paying big money, for advertising and for research, so they could have a powerful impact on the lives of people by controlling them. Right. And so according to this chart here, as you guys can see, I took it back to 1850s, around that time frame there. And you can see at that time it was about 60-40 split. We had back paper and gold and silver at about 60% in circulation. And to give you an idea what that looks like, I actually put some on the screen right here so you can see it for yourself. And so these are demand notes or paper that was actually backed by metals at that current time frame. And then if you scroll over here to the next one, you'll see legal tender notes, which was, and that came about after the whole Civil War time frame. And then to go back to this chart here, as you guys can see, as time went on, our money supply changed, government grew, debt grew, you name it. So we went into the 1900s with 30% unbacked paper, 40% backed, and then of course gold and silver. So we went from 60% down to 30%, all within a couple of decades there. And then, of course, came the Federal Reserve. And so the Federal Reserve, to save you all the historical aspects, that's our third bank that we're currently on now. It can be linked back to the Rothschilds in that statement that I started off with. And then from the early 1900s up into the 1950s or so, it became less physical in the form of real sound money and gold and silver into backed paper and unbacked paper. And to give you another idea of what that looks like here on the top of the screen here, as you guys can see. Yeah, so that's one thing you have to take into consideration. So the book of Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 5 says, "By thy great wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches." And that's exactly why these elites are so proud and pompous and arrogant, because they were able to amass so much wealth, by fraud and deceit. All right, and that's one thing you have to continue to keep on the board. All right, you have to understand the nature of these people you're dealing with. All right, because if they can kill the president of any country, you know, what's going to stop them from coming after you? All right. So it just shows you how desperate they are, all right, to manipulate the situation for their own advantage. Then verse 6, Ezekiel 28, verse 6 says, therefore, thus said the Lord, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of a God. All right. And then you read verse 17 and verse 18. It says, thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty, because thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. So that's America's future right there, total destruction. And there's there's so many movies, man, out there. So many movies that shows you what the future holds for America. You know, when the directors pay attention to what's written in the scriptures and they watch the videos from the men of the Lord preaching the scriptures, they understand that they have to incorporate the scriptures to the movies. All right, and say that America has a terrible ending. Then verse 18 says, thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring a fire from the midst of thee. I will bring a fire forth from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. So it's clear that there is no way out for America, man, but destruction. And it's all prophecy, all right? And then the book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10 says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith. That's why you hear of so many of our people selling out, man, thinking that gain is godliness, and they chose the wrong deal. All right, so that's why the Lord is going to jack them up and cast them out. Okay, and pierce themselves through with many sorrows. So the time of them being persecuted by the Lord is coming. So all those folks that join hand with the government and want to push our people to go along with the image of the beast, they're going to get torn apart, man, when the Lord Hamashiach Yahushua shows up. They're not going to have any hedge against the calamities that's coming upon the face of the earth. All right.
I put some notes up here where we got the Federal Reserve note in 1918. We got the gold certificate here from 1922. We got the silver certificate from 1928. And then, of course, the Treasury note, which is a non-interest bearing note that Uncle Sam issued directly. And so we had some varieties back in that time frame, of which 2 of these were redeemable for metals and 2 are not. And then, of course, as we move further up this time scale here, and of course, a lot of things happen in between, but you can see here the introduction of electronic currency. And that's when the entire game changed. After 64, silver was removed. After 1933, gold was removed. Sound money was no longer an equation. We were stuck with unbacked paper, which is about 40% in the 1990 time frame, and the electronic currency, which is basically ones and zeros on computer screens at commercial banks, was about 60% of the total money supply that we were utilizing in the earlier time frame. And then, of course, after 1970, the gold window was removed, and everything became solely fiat-based. And here,
now you know the reason why they had that glitch, with the so-called Federal Reserve and their network for money transactions going back and forth and all that stuff. I tell you, the network went down. Yeah, so they're preparing themselves, man, for that transition. So just pay attention, man. Nothing happens by accident when a network, goes down, especially for bank. So they're always updating and adding new equipment to have that transition over for the mark of the beast, for the RFID chip. All right.
We are today. Approximately 98% electronic currency, and at best, unbacked paper currency, perhaps 2%. And this is just a quick synopsis of what has transpired over the last 100 years.
Yeah, and he's not really talking much about the inflation you have to deal with. What you look at when you get that chart and you look at the price of an ounce of gold, starting from when they had to track it, and the price of silver, then you know they're trying to crash the system. They're trying to force, that transition, to have a digital currency. So they have to do a problem reaction solution.
Since the Federal Reserve has been in operations, but the Federal Reserve System, linked back to the Rothschild family, has ran its course. And at this current moment, due to this current pandemic and all the trillions of dollars being brought into existence to try to cover this current debt crisis we're in now, we've reached the end of this current fiat currency.
Yeah, so that's about how much I'm gonna play, from the brothers, video. You could watch the whole thing. It shows you how the elites are using the front of cryptocurrencies to further their agenda. And it shows you that nothing happens by accident. So you gotta be careful, man. You don't put your trust in a system like this, because it's a system of control, all right? It's a system of oppression, all right? So they have to find a way to get the people tied into the system where they could, you know, exercise complete authority over the people. So the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 12 says, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. And that's the mindset you need to have as a man of the Lord, that whatsoever, you could use, to make your life better, don't let it be a stumbling block for you, especially in this time we're living in, because that's how the devil operates, man. Whatever you like to have and you could use, he wants to turn it against you. So you gotta be very, very circumspect. So that was the point there, Hakim. Be vigilant. The devil, the adversary, he's scheming around because he's about to make a move. All right, Shalom.